Labradors. The type of dogs that I've been breeding over the years have been used for many and various things. Initially we didn't police an army and supplied them to dogs, and then found out we're interbreeding, so we bred some 15 Springers, English Springer Spaniels, that were at that time going off to Afghanistan. One of the values I had at that time was I got to see some of their techniques. And it's very, very interesting how they motivate a dog to work and use their nose and be cooperative. As time has gone on, we've then been involved largely with breeding assistance dogs. The guys from Afghanistan came back and they were looking for assistance dogs. So we provide conditioned puppies to go to people with PTSD, autism. We do medical alert, epilepsy, and in particular diabetes. I will train a puppy to be responsive to individual's diabetic scent from a baby. It's called imprinting.
They're amazing.
It is amazing.
Absolutely amazing to see those dogs pick up on someone who's having about to have a low.
Yep. So we specialise in doing that. It wasn't that I particularly wanted to do that. It was a case of, had one guy rang me and sort of said, my 3-year-old is falling asleep in the car, and we were thinking it was a virus or something, and then eventually found out there was type 1 diabetes in the 3-year-old. They couldn't pick up what was happening, and with T1D, it's individual for each person, but the most dangerous time is when they're asleep. Overnight, your blood sugars drop, and for a little person, they can drop into a coma. So I had to say, do you know how to do this? And I go, oh no, I have no idea. So we got on to America, and some people who trained us in America. So a lot of the people who have shown me what to do and how to do things are in Sweden, America, some in England. And we conditioned this particular puppy to be responsive. So what they had to do is get the saliva of the child or the sweat of the child when they're having a hypo. So one parent's treating the kid who's having a hypo, the other one's going, sorry darling, I've got to swab under the arm or in the groin or spit into this, you know. Freeze it, send it to me. And I'll imprint a puppy from about 5 weeks. And that dog then starts to respond to it, to make an association. I cannot use food to reward them. Okay? You don't use food, because I've got Labradors and you go, food? Kid's dead. Doing this. So it is all about voice and modulation of tone. Now I've probably got about 15 odd dogs, but if you want to look up one of the more recent ones, look up Linus the Life-Saving Labrador for Bailey on Facebook. Their dog is now 11 years old, not one of mine, previously trained. Because the dog's aging out, he's getting older, he's not awaking to the sleep drop that the child has. So they got one of my dogs who's now 18 months, called Nova. And Nova has been alerting since he was 12 weeks old, as did this one for the 3-year-old. And alerting particularly at night time, because the old boy's sleeping through. And this 14-year-old is still having hypos and is not hyposensitive to when he drops. And it can kill him. So yeah, so this little doggo's doing it well. The kid's living a full length life. Alright, so what I want to talk about canine behaviour, I also want to talk about human behaviour, because they go together. Alright, there is, in my experience, 3 types of people around dogs. There's the person who really likes dogs, but they don't particularly have a good connection. I get a bit facetious and say they probably should have gotten a pet rock, but they got a dog. Yeah. I don't see them a lot, but I do get them occasionally. And that's sort of a person I've got to sit down and go, you need to really think about what you're doing before you engage with the dog. Doesn't always work, and then what's amazing is the dog, despite their lack of instinct, adapts. and lives quite happily. The next one is probably the majority of people that I come across is they like dogs, they're interested in dogs, they like to do things with dogs, but they kind of don't know how to make the connection, and they're the ones I can help the most. Okay, so here's the books, here's the information, go and read about this. And then the next group almost always already have got the dog bug. They've already gone, I love dogs, I can be around dogs, dogs are awesome, and they are like me. Yeah. So those of us who are into it are usually entered into the dog world. Scent work, tracking, obedience. They're into that echelon. Some of them then decide they go on and become trainers. My story is I didn't grow up with dogs. Didn't have a dog in the end of the league. But I would go for walks around town. It was the 70s, so you got kicked out at dawn and you got home before it was dark. And the neighbours' dogs would jump the fence and come with me. I go, oh, yeah. Righto, I'll just go for a walk. So, there was nothing for me to have anything from 2 to 7 dogs following me. Come to the corner, wait. All right, let's go. It's been a pack of dogs. Off lead, it's the 70s, no one had leads. Go down to the park and say, off you go. It's good. I thought it was normal, but I didn't have a dog at home. Okay, so it wasn't part of that home living environment. I wasn't probably, and I didn't think anything of it, to be honest. It wasn't probably till the mid-90s when I came across the option to do dog training. Now, yes, I've done competition obedience and stuff like that. The problem with formal dog training, and I'm talking about the different levels of training and competition, is the more I trained a dog to obey me, obey is another jargon word, the more I compromised the dog's natural instinct. So I think, to be fair, to be honest, really, I intimidated my dogs to be cooperative. You know, so they had to sit, stand, drop, stay. They had to come when I called. And if I went into a competition, you'd bloody be doing it right. Then I got this ass of a dog who I loved dearly, went through the first 2 levels, but would not retrieve in an iron lung. I was going to make that dog do it. And out of the ring, absolutely. As soon as I got in the ring, I got the bird. And she would retrieve the dumbbell to the judge. She would retrieve it to the dog handler in the other ring, and then ultimately took it to the car, sat in the back and went, so, okay, I'll stop doing it. Because I had lost my instinct that I'd naturally had because I wanted to achieve this particular goal. This is something I want you to understand, is we require a dog to conform to us. Dogs are just dogs. They have behaviours, but they have some behaviours we don't like. So we also rush in, particularly these days, and train it out of them. Problem is, it's just a dog. It's just a dog. You're not going to make a Jack Russell into a Labrador. You're not going to make a German Shepherd, who was alluded before, into a cattle dog. But I've seen people try and do that. I had this awesome Border Collie when I was younger, and this Border Collie is going to do the same thing. No. So what I want you to do when you next look at your dog is take your ego, put it aside. Just, not get rid of it. Because, I like the ribbons too, so I'm still going to do it. And just sit down and chill with your dog. You don't have to do it. Don't touch. Stop talking. My little NDTF student. Stop talking. Stop telling them what you think they should be doing. Stop telling them you love them, because they seriously actually don't give a rat's. What they want is to have company with you. And that you need to be the safest thing in that dog's life. Now, if you have a dog for a job and it has instinct, so when the dogs are used for hunting, scent work, biosecurity, and I provided all those dogs, assistance dogs work, protection, police, all that sort of stuff, then you're working with the dog's instinct, because that particular instinct is of benefit to your job. If you're a security person and you want to do, you're going to be doing security, you're probably going to want to have a dog that does bite work. But you've got to know that once you've taught a dog how to do bite work, it is actually going to enjoy bite work. It is the most satisfying thing. And when they do something that satisfies their instinct, you've got to have a lot of control. Because you turn around and you go, oh shit, I don't like that person. The dog goes, really? Can I do something about that, please? And if you haven't got, settle down, leave it in a really secure way, then doggo is going to be very opportunistic. If you're into hunting, so they get people out here will go at rabbiting and whatever. You don't ask of your whippets to be obedient, but you do ask them to come back. Preferably with the rabbit. Okay? So when a dog gets a chance to use their instinct, there's two things they want. Number one is to fulfill the satisfaction of the hunt. Every dog can hunt. They don't necessarily do it well by our standards. But you need to have a relationship for that dog to come back with the rabbit. Let it go and get another one. Yeah? So you've got to work with the instinct. And the people who achieve the most with the dogs, who understand that their particular dog has an instinct and they work with it. Dogs like us. Yes, they all came from wolves. Some affectionate wolf decided it was going to join the human pack, and then they had puppies, and then they were conditioned, and it went on and on and on. But wolves do not really need us. If you put a problem in front of a wolf, they'll solve it. Now, domestic dogs, if you put a problem in front of them, they'll go, can you fix it? You sure you can't fix it? And they'll walk away. What domestic dogs have learned to do is that the human will generally step in and go, oh yes, let's pull possum, I'll open the gate for you. I'll turn the tap on for you. I'll get the food out of the fridge. My labs will line up at the fridge when it's dinner time. Say, are you feeding me soon? No, I'm not. And I'm like, damn. That human-dog relationship is what we have and we need in our society. Of the last probably 10 or 15 years, I've seen more and more the neediness of humans to almost demand from a dog to meet their emotional needs. So we had COVID. Yay, there's a whole lot of things we can talk about COVID. But we left work. We stayed at home for 12, 18 months. 2 years. Was it nearly 3? 2 years. Let's say 2 years. If you want to say we're nearly 2 years at home. It's a good time to get a dog, isn't it? Problem is, the dog never saw anyone. Yes, you took it out for walks. You might have taken them for drives, but they didn't see traffic. They didn't see cars and buses. Oh, we don't see cars and buses here that much. But they didn't see them at the traffic lights, horns for honking. They didn't see people running in the park, coming up and talking and handling. They didn't see other dogs because we weren't allowed closer than about 2 or 3 meters. And so there's a whole group of dogs only saw their family and their environment, and then we went back to work or back to school. And then they're anxious because where's my pack gone? So probably the last 4 or 5 years, that's what I've been seeing is people are at the beginning or post-COVID have got dogs during COVID and they've got these separation anxiety problems. Is it your fault? No, none of us controls COVID. You can't control these things. But what I did find people do during that time is they spent too much attention. They gave too much attention to every nuance of their dog. And dogs love attention. It's candy. In some cases, it's more than food. It's your lap. Their need for you to be engaging with them is a big thing. yet this almost codependency occurred. In fact, I would say it's codependency. Where there are people, more than likely women, and I don't mean to be gender biased, but there's a tendency for guys to go, yeah, dog, cool, I'm off out the back, dog follows, it's all good, and they kind of leave them alone. But there's a tendency for women and children to go, who's my little precious puppet? Would you like a cookie today? Come and get a cookie. And the dog's just going, shut up and feed me. Okay? Our need has become so high to demand a dog's attention to meet our emotional needs that you create these neurotic dogs. Big or little. The little ones are worse. Only because the little ones you can cut. Yeah? So if I see someone with a little doodly thing, they tend to say, oh, but my little dog Bobby here, he's just, oh, but he just loves me. Lick, 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 lick. That licking's anxiety. That's not affection. So one of our biggest problems is we misinterpret what the dog's trying to say. They're usually saying, can you just put me down so I can be a dog? I need to have a leak. Can you put me down? I just want to smell the ground. Oh no, I've got to have you near me. So I see a lot of that. People who are over dependent on the dog to meet their emotional needs. And then comes, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, the Facebook television programs about what people think assistance dogs can do. And they do amazing things. I know, that's what I specialise in. Absolutely no. But a lot of it is instinct. The rest of it, the training part, is what I call living skills. It needs to walk on the lead and the loose lead. It needs to come when it's called. It needs to sit when it needs to sit. It needs to be able to travel in a car comfortably. When in public, we're looking at calm behaviour. And there are 3 states for a dog. There is alert, detached, and neutral. So when in public, you have to teach a dog to be neutral because its natural instinct is to be alert. Not fearful, not anxious, not neurotic, not attention seeking, but there's a child over there and there's someone around there and then there's a bird just went, the dog will do that, yeah? So we have to teach them to learn to ignore the child over there, learn to ignore the pack of birds over there, really hard for a gun dog. Learn to ignore when we had a mouse plague back, it would have been about 5-10 years ago. The mice, they kind of got desensitized because there were too many of them. But yeah, learning to be neutral. You also need to be neutral and bring down your thinking to just be aware of where your dog's at. So I can walk with my dog, not look at him, have him on lead, and I can feel from the pressure of the lead on the side of my hand whether he's in front, whether he's behind, or whether he's on a loose lead. Human nature does not praise desirable behaviour. We tend to look to correct when we're training a dog. Yes, with humans, there are 3 tones. There's praise, command, correct. What I invite you to do is when you're going for a walk with your dog, and it's nice and loose and walking along, you just go, good boy, good girl, and I go, yeah, and keep on doing it. Because unless you give the dog the opportunity to reinforce the behaviour you desire, you're only going to respond to the negative behaviour, human nature, not dog's behaviour, it's human nature. And then the dog only gets negative reinforcement, usually correction. If you're self-disciplined and can manage to do it, and it's really hard, try not to say your dog's name in an aggressive way. Johnny! Rather say, sit, now. Okay, don't worry about it. But I would never say the dog's name. Or I try not to. Okay? Praise, command. We are natural correctors. We are naturally orientated as humans to look at negatively correcting something. When you're looking at canine behaviour, there's a very well established concept. It's called learning theory. Every school teacher knows it. not necessarily well, but they do know it. So there is antecedent behaviour, there is behaviour, and there's consequence. Antecedent behaviour is the build-up before they display a behaviour. The consequence is the consequences of the behaviour. So, cattle dog sitting there, nice and calm and quiet. Another dog comes up and stares at it. The cattle dog is well trained. He's not going to do anything, but he'll pick his head up. He'll drop his muzzle. He'll look at it in his eye, with his eyes, and he'll flick his ears forward. That is antecedent behaviour. Has he done anything? No. Has he moved? Necessarily? No. But is something building up? Yes. And you can get in at that level and go, leave it. And he goes, and they'll literally drop back into their body. It is the key to the training of assistance dogs. So I take one of my dogs out. I sometimes train for other people's dogs in preparation, very rarely. It's really time consuming. But if I take my dogs out into public, I've got 3 rules. 1, I am on the end of the lead, you are not in charge, I am charge. 2, it is not a sniff and giggle experience. Okay, probably one of my bugbears is, oh, it's up for the wee, let it have a wee. Yeah, give you a few minutes to have a wee, smell the ground. We're now working. Because they're going to be an assistance dog and they can work up to 14 hours a day. So they need to work at a low energy level to maintain that. So I'm walking along and they come through and there's a group of people. Now my dogs love people, but they also know if I'm on the end of the lead, it's sort of, you've got to ignore them. So I go, let them, and they'll walk all the way through them, wait around, and sit here. If I start talking, they get bored, so they just lay down. But you can sit there, you can stare at them, you can even wave your hands, you can clap at them. But if I'm in public, they will not come to you, because they're the rules. At home, they're up your left nostril.
They eat your cake off your
They
plate.
eat cake off your plate, they've got absolutely no friggin' manners. Because I don't expect my dogs to perform at home. I expect them to perform in public and public well. Are they required to spin, sit, stand, drop? Absolutely not. They are required not to talk to you unless I give you permission. Give you permission, not the dog. They are required to walk on a loose lead and they're required to check in on me. So this is that thing when I went back to the wolf will go solve its own problem. They don't need you to fix it. But if I've got diabetes, which I do, and I've taught one of my dogs to pick up on my highs, she will check in and she will just nose button and do something about it. Eventually I do. If you've got epilepsy, the dogs can pick up the electrical changes in your body before you have a seizure to indicate something's happening. Not always. Epilepsy is difficult. But a lot of people will train a dog to do what they need to do after the person's had a seizure. So the best case option is that they indicate, the person says, this is associated with me coming and have a seizure. They then sit down so they're not going to fall down. And you can do things like the dog can lie underneath the back of their head and stop them from hitting the ground, stuff like that. Or take them to a safe place. How do dogs pick this up? People with PTSD, humans, those of us that have anxiety at times. When we get anxious and our head's spinning, the amygdala goes. When the amygdala goes, the cortisol is released off the top of the kidneys and we breathe it out. And the dogs pick up the cortisol levels. And they pick up, this is normal, that's not. So they go, this is normal, that's not. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? It's as simple as that. Okay, so what do we teach the guys with the PTSD is get your dog. When you are head spinning, you know you are. And what happens for PTSD is other people don't pick it up until they're well into the behaviour. Okay, so this is the antecedent bit. So you can pick up when you're anxious, can call your dog to you, sit them down in front of you and pat them. And you'll go into this from the back of the skull down the spine. it does two things. For the dog, it releases endorphins and you feel comfortable. This is awesome. The other thing for the dog is when mum or dad's like this, and I come to them, I get this awesome stroking. What you get is a thing called mindfulness, which every shrink says, when you are stressed, be mindful. When you are stressed, you don't want to be mindful. You seriously just want to punch someone. So, patting your dog, on the other hand, is a positive thing, isn't it? And you like your dog. So if you can draw your dog to you when you're stressed, and you do this rhythmical patting, even to the point I would do this on my dog, lean into it. Isn't it awesome? This is great. Lean into it. What happens for me doing that is my brain doesn't get stuck in the amygdala, spinning around like a spin cycle on a washing machine. It starts to slow down. It starts to go, I'm deliberately doing this. It starts to say, bring the dog over, I'll start slowing down. So emotion we live with as humans. It comes up, we experience, and it passes. PTSD, it comes up, we scare ourselves to death because we drink, we drug, we pick a fight, we run away, we avoid, we don't go to work, we have a sick day, and then the consequences. We don't actually experience it passing. So you get a sense of accomplishment, I guess. If you can accept that we are human and we are vulnerable sometimes, if you go and return to a safe place, your dog, and quietly sit there as you leave the supermarket that has just sent you spinning out in the chair and pat your dog, all you're doing is patting your dog. No one's coming up in your face and going, are you okay? Because if someone did that with me, I'd punch them. Okay, because I don't want anyone near me. Back in the day, I'm a bit better now. But does that make sense? And that's how we use the dogs. What's the dog getting? An awesome stroke. And they get the endorphins released into it, and they kind of know they've helped mum and dad, you know. And when you allow a dog to do that, when you teach a person how to work with the natural instinct of your dog, they so want to do it again. They so want to help you, and they also understand when you have highs and lows. You know, my dogs don't get in my face when I'm having a low. I'm not talking hypo, I'm just emotionally low. They just gather around me. It gets a bit awkward and I get chitty because I've got 6 of them. I go, get out of my way! But it also is an indicator to me that I'm stressing. Yeah? So let them use that. I have some information about assistance dogs and what socialisation really means. I can hand that out to most of you. But it's my personal bugbear. You go, particularly on the coast, in the summertime, you'll have people who have bought a coat off the net and said, service dog, on their little cock-a-poodle-doodle snoodle or their Rottweiler or whatever pet, and take them into public and think they can take them into stores. It's my service dog. We don't call them service dogs in Australia, they are assistance dogs. The only service dogs in Australia are police dogs and guide dogs, but they are assistance dogs. We just use that term. So, dead giveaway if someone's got a service dog coat. Assistance dog coats are almost always blue, although some organisations will have other colours because it's trained by an organisation. Assistance dogs are trained for a purpose to go into public. Some of them are not obvious. So the dude in the wheelchair, pretty obvious. The person with PTSD, not so. The person with depression and anxiety, not so. But to be able to take an assistance dog into public for your needs, you need to have a medical certificate to say it is needed. You need to also have a record of training from 6 months on until it is accredited, and they cannot be accredited until under 18 months because it takes about 18 months in some breeds longer for them to mature. So the canine brain, like the human brain, takes time to mature. And whilst it's structurally got its act together about 7 weeks of age, it takes 18 months for those individual sections to mature so that they can use them. Okay? but from 6 months on, if you're going to have an assistant dog training added, and they can go anywhere except for into a surgical theatre. But therapy dogs, so they have all public access rights, shopping centres and all the rest of it. Therapy dogs are usually used, they have good manners, the dog has good living skills, so they're not jumping on people, they're not scratching, they're not biting, they're not barking. And they usually go into nursing homes, or you can take them to doctors and psychologists and psychiatrist appointments with their permission. But that organisation's got to give permission. And generally you need to have insurance. I would recommend that. And then you've got your companion dog. Now your companion dog can go anywhere in town as long as it's on lead. Okay, so I don't care whether you've got a UDX, awesome bells and whistles, you do not go into town with your dog off lead. Oh, but my dog's well trained. Bonk! A rabbit across the road? Yeah, nah, don't do it. Don't do it. I know my dogs won't leave my side, but I still put a lead on.
Or the ranger will be across the road.
Yeah, it says the ranger. Yes. Why have all these rules and regulations happen? Because back in the 70s we didn't have it. Mainly because people breach them. Mainly because people don't keep the dogs behind a fenced yard. And the dog jumps the fence. And I did it. I had a dog that we went to school, and Mum and Dad went to work, and they jumped the fence and went and visited all the neighbours. I didn't care, but these days you're not allowed to. So our rules, there are regulations, there are fines, there's all that sort of stuff. What I love to see is a person, whether it's a companion dog or whether it's got all the bells and whistles, is that their owner has a genuine relationship with the dog that is trusting and loyal, because you need to teach your dog that you are the safest thing in their life. That you can go with you anywhere and they will be safe. Otherwise, the cattle dog will protect you. You want a dog that's going to be neutral. You have to teach it its a learnt behaviour. Okay? And you need to talk to a trainer how to do that, which is what I'm about for. It's what most of my consults are. That all vets have contacted for behavioural issues. So I work with Blaney Vet. Jo Shenny is a animal behaviourist. She works with all sorts of animals, but she specifically specialises in animal behaviour. And yes, there's a place for medication in some cases. But usually it's because the human-dog relationship is distorted and the humans reinforced inadvertently the wrong behaviours. And you've got to swap it around. People ring me up for behavioural management issues, mainly because the dog's frustrating them. They don't want to hurt the dog, which is awesome, but they need some guidance. And it's really easy, because I usually have to just change your behaviours. Yeah? So that would be about it. The only other thing is, please understand socialisation. There's a lot of Facebook stuff about socialising your dog, but let them go and sniff and little and piddle everywhere and whatever. Going in public isn't about taking your dog downtown, having a cup of coffee and coming home as much as you want to. You've got to teach them to be used to being in public and having the manners. Socialising, I've got a handout here for people if you wish to. Really it involves letting your dog experience life, and the younger the better. I have a very distinctive puppy raising program that is part of the reason that we've always had orders. And we supply people with dogs for needs, and those who need them for puppies. So people who want a dog for autism for themselves as an adult, for their child, you need to get a puppy, because a puppy's got to get used to the normal behaviours. It is difficult to pre-train a dog for someone who has a screaming meltdown when it's a child. It's confusing. Dogs will match the energy you have. So if you're coming home, oh, it's so good to see you, and the dog's jumping and batting, shut up. Walk in, put your keys away, walk out the front, flick the coffee on. Ignore your dog. If you're going to have a song and dance at the door and then complain to me, it's bouncing when I come inside, guess why? Alright, so I have here a dozen or more, probably a bit more. Yes, this is if you want to train private sessions, but on that as well is what socialisation is, because that's probably 99% of the problem of your dog. There's this one, which talks about the difference between assistance dogs, therapy dogs, and companion dogs. Okay? Crosses and ticks. Well, I think I just blatantly went and said yes and no. And this is about the roles of dogs in Australia, which is basically that. Okay, that's the one I've got there to hand out to you. Please understand the people who go and use a dog as an assistance dog, a genuine assistance dog, and you can either go to an organisation or you can own a train. It will still cost you upward of $15,000 to get it to accreditation level and onward. You can teach tasks. I've taught dogs to persons in the supermarket. They can turn around and say to the dog, find the car, take them out of the supermarket and find their car. I've taught dogs to get medication. I've taught dogs to the diabetes alert, the epilepsy stuff. Problem is, you can have all these tasks and skills, but you've got to maintain it. So I can teach a dog to do it, but I've got to teach you how to maintain it. Okay? And you've got to be prepared to do it. That is mainly what I do. That is probably my main job. I don't compete in the beat-ins or whatever anymore. Probably because of my ADHD, I get bored. So I don't want to wait all day for the rhythm. Yeah, I don't care. I don't improve anything. Off we go. But I can problem solve most behaviours, and that's what I get called for. So yeah, that's it.